Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2017 crime thriller Good Time. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this film, I would like to give a special shout out to Shine for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. The link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Good Time is one of those films that going into this first time viewing, because of its critical reputation, because of all the good things that I've heard about it over the years, I gotta admit, I was a little hyped. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's a total disappointment, because that's not true. Uh, I thought it was ultimately kind of there for me. I liked it okay, but it doesn't mean that I felt that this was a film that was a total misfire. It's just one of those movies that at the end of the day, I wasn't a big fan of compared to others. It's a film that I definitely do feel your mileage may vary. The things that I feel don't quite click about this movie, you might feel the opposite. So, despite my feelings on the film, I still would recommend checking it out, especially if you think it sounds interesting to you. That being said, this was not 100% on Rotten Tomatoes kind of film for me. This wasn't a 10 out of 10. This wasn't a 5-star classic. I thought it was a 3-star kind of film. And the main reason for that is because of the combined efforts of the Sadfie brothers who directed this, Robert Pattinson, the cinematographer, the editor, and the composer, and some of the supporting cast members. Because for me personally, this is a film where the screenplay just, in a lot of ways, lets it down. But before I get around to explaining my thoughts as to why I feel the script lets this film down and makes it so it's not as good of a time as it could be, I want to give some praise to the directing by the Sadfie brothers. I think the both of them did a really special and strong job directing this. It's a very raw, gritty film. At times, it's very voyeuristic to the point where it looks like it's a reality show or it's a documentary or a film in the vein of the director of Kids. I think his name is Larry Clark, and because of that, it really does add a certain intensity, a certain visual style that does stick with you. I think the two directors did a remarkable job working with lighting. There's some really great looking shots of the funhouse or other scenes that feature some very unique and genuinely cool lighting. Some good use of neon and black light. And I think for the most part, visually, it's pretty consistent when it comes to the tone and the overall look of the film. There's some really impressive techniques that are employed by both of these men when it comes to the film visually. Some tracking shots, some really nice establishing shots at times, some good usage of zooms and close ups and other elements of filmmaking. So, overall, from a technical standpoint, Good Time, I think, is really good. And in large part, it's due to what Josh and Benny Sadfie bring to it. Now, the screenplay by Ronald Bornstein and Josh Sadfie, on the other hand, is something that is ultimately a very simple, straightforward story about this criminal named Connie who has this younger brother named Nick who's mentally challenged. And Connie is trying to in his own way, his own deluded way, help his brother by getting him involved in his life of crime. But because of that, something goes horribly awry when it comes to a bank robbing job that the two of them went on. And the bulk of the film is Connie trying to raise money for his brother's bail or to try to break him out of uh, jail. And for a lot of people, they think it's full of nonstop, nail biting tension and anxiety because of this whole series of events involving Connie trying to get his brother, trying to save his brother. But for me, I feel the complete opposite because of the fact that it's very clear from the beginning that Connie is a absolute piece of shit. Like, this is a irredeemable character. He's already someone that is not likable, and I know that's the intent. I know that's the point. He's not supposed to be a likable character. But to me, that has a very short shelf life because I think there's a way you can handle that kind of character who has less than desirable traits, but still make it a character that you still kind of root for, so you still have some legitimate tension. For instance, the Sadfie brothers' next film that they did after this, Uncut Gems. Like, I legitimately felt that Howard, Adam Sandler's character, despite his less than favorable, or I mean less than favorable, my bad. I think I was thinking of the word unsavory. So some of his unsavory aspects of his personality, you still are kind of able to put them on the wayside because you can see that he's trying and he's actually legitimately making a real effort to try to be a better person or try to be there for his family or try to do the right thing, but he's just crippled by this addiction to gambling. With Connie, he's just a piece of shit. He's manipulative, he uses his brother, he is just somebody that you don't root for in any capacity. Why should I care whether or not he stays one step ahead of the law, let alone saves his brother? Because to me, he's the worst possible person to be in his brother's life. And the script even agrees with that because there's a line at the end when Connie gets arrested and Nick is going to therapy or he's going to these classes with people who have similar disabilities compared to his own. I think his therapist or his counselor, he says, hey, Connie's where he needs to be and you are where you need to be. Which means Connie is where I think, no, actually what it was is Connie's where he should be and you're where you need to be. So the script even says that Connie is somebody who belongs in jail. So where is the tension? The tension is waiting till he gets arrested so that it's for sure that he's not going to be a part of his brother's life anymore because he's a bad influence. That's not good tension to me. So for a film that has all this marketing and all this praise and all these critics talking about how it's full of just nonstop tension, to me, it didn't have that. Because very early on, I didn't care about Connie. I didn't care what happened to him. And I didn't care about his story or his plight. Because to me, his brother did not need him. The best thing for Nick was that his brother did not succeed when it comes to doing any of the things that he was trying to do. Because if he did break his brother would just get in even more trouble because now he has that on his rap sheet. If he bailed him out, he would just be a bad influence continually and get his brother Nick involved in more crimes and potentially lead to Nick's death due to another robbery gone wrong. And it's not like there is any sort of suspense or tension involving whether or not he's going to pull off anything that he's trying to do, because he's very early on revealed to be a guy who's not very smart. So Connie is somebody who's arrogant and has this belief that he's a smart guy. He even says that later on in the film, where he's making fun of one of his cohorts, who is the guy that Connie thought was his brother, but turned out not to be, because of the fact that he saw this guy who was under police surveillance at the hospital, and without thinking through things at all, without even like checking the name on the door, the information, without even thinking about it, he just takes this guy. He assumes him to be his brother, and then it turns out not to be, because Connie's a moron. He's not smart. I mean, right from the beginning, he does this whole thing to rob the bank, and he doesn't think that the moment when the bank teller goes out of his sight and goes to the back room, that she's not going to put a dye pack in the bag of money. And of course, later on, they try to get to the money, and the dye pack explodes and they get all covered in dye. And I'm like, yeah, because you're a dumbass. And that's what I don't get. It's like, how is this a film that has tension and suspense when your lead, Connie, is an idiot? He's a really bad criminal. And then on top of that, he's also a bad person. So why should I care? At least an episode of Cops gets this shit over with in 5 to 10 minutes. And I know me talking about this aspect of the script makes it sound like I'm really hard on the film and I don't like it. That's not true. I don't mind the film. I still think, despite the way that Connie is written, there's still a lot there for Robert Pattinson to work with. And it leads to a relatively compelling performance, despite the fact that I don't really care about this character. It's one of those things where, yeah, I don't like this character. I hate his guts. I think he's a total moron, and he's a really bad influence on his brother. But it's the kind of performance where it's like a train wreck. The character is a train wreck, and you have a hard time looking away because of that, because you're just wondering, okay, what stupid, dumb thing is this guy going to do next? He's gonna sexually assault a 16-year-old. I understand it wasn't out of malice. He did it because he was trying to distract her from the news broadcast that was showing him, so she wouldn't catch on that he's a criminal. He still did that, and it was incredibly dumb. And there's just a lot of that stuff where he just makes these incredibly dumb and idiotic decisions that just keep getting him into even more trouble, and he doesn't think things through. And so, yeah, it leads to a compelling train wreck character. His brother, less so. I mean, all you really get with Nick is that he's mentally handicapped, and he loves his brother, and that's really about it. Oh, and maybe a little bit involving him being potentially abused or dealing with a lot of other psychological stuff that stems from how he was raised. But other than that stuff, there's not much there with Nick. And I would say the moment where the film legitimately gets interesting for me is when Ray gets involved. When you have the reveal that the guy that Connie thought he broke out of the hospital was his brother, turns out to be this other guy named Ray. And then when you get to hear Ray's story in terms of how he got to the hospital, like, that was genuinely kind of unpredictable and unique and an interesting twist and a different sort of turn to take things when it comes to the story around halfway through. Because I got to be honest, before that, it was starting to wear very thin to me. Yeah, Connie's a compelling train wreck character, but that can only work so much. And the more you see him be a train wreck, the less compelling it is because it just becomes something that's overdone and overplayed. But with the stuff with this other guy with Ray and the whole journey of Connie and Ray trying to find this money that was left behind at this amusement park, that really provides a nice change of direction and a nice change of setting. Like this has some nice uh, places for Connie to go to. It's not just stuck in one place. I do appreciate the script for that as well. Because the stuff with him and the underage girl, like there were some, I don't know if they were kind of charming. The moments where they're just hanging out and watching cops on TV, but there's a little bit of that stuff, but not enough to like consistently engage me. But once you got to the Ray stuff, and now he's got a goal other than him just trying to find his brother. Now he's got to try to find this money, doesn't know where it is. But that doesn't really go anywhere because they never find the money. Instead, they find this Sprite bottle with acid in it. That becomes the next thing where they're going to try to sell the acid. And of course, things don't work out very well with that. And the script also suffers from the fact that despite all this decent buildup, it fizzles out. Like once the stuff happens at the amusement park, they find the Sprite, it really does start to fizzle out. And it's not as interesting, it's not as intriguing. It doesn't have really any more moments of tension because you just really see where it's going to go, and it goes pretty much exactly where you expect it is going to. Connie, his whole plan just completely falls apart because of his decisions coming to roost. Ray, he's cornered. He doesn't want to go back to jail, so then he just decides to take his own life. Connie gets arrested, and because of that, Nick is then allowed to live his life without the influence of his brother. And he's allowed to heal and to move forward, hopefully in a better direction. And it seems like he was already out of jail, or he wasn't even in prison anymore by the time Connie got arrested. So it just makes me wonder how long he was out of prison and he was like just at a mental hospital or something. Because that was my initial assumption anyway, from what was being said on the phone call, is that oh, he went to a mental institution, or he went to a hospital to be treated, not only for his injuries that he sustained during a fight in jail, but also because of his disability. Because that happens where you'll have these people who are mentally handicapped and they have these freakouts, and then they wind up going to a hospital to be treated because there's nowhere else for them to go. And sometimes they do wind up no longer in general population, or in prison because of the fact that they are mentally challenged, that they have these issues. So if that is the case, then everything that Connie did was ultimately pointless, if that's really what happened. So yeah, I just feel that the script needed more moments of craziness, like something like After Hours by Scorsese. Like that film, like it legitimately had an escalation to it. Things really seemed to just get crazier and crazier and crazier by the time the end credits rolled around. Here, it doesn't really seem that way, at least not to me personally. It seems like it gets its wildest and its craziest when you get to the flashback with Ray talking about what happened and why he wound up in the hospital and the stuff that happens at the amusement park. And then after that, it's no longer really nearly as wild or inventive or as unique anymore. Just becomes your kind of bog standard crime, a thriller or a bit of drama. And yeah, I feel it could have been even, it should have been crazier, like really gotten to just crazy acid trip kind of levels by the end of the movie, but it didn't get to that point. I think you could have had an opportunity where one of the characters took the acid and now you're seeing scenes from the perspective of the guy who's high on acid. That would have been an interesting transition, something to keep you engaged. Because I don't really feel the aspect of the plot involving Connie trying to get his brother is enough. I really don't. And the supporting characters other than Ray and to be honest, Ray is a character that after a certain point also becomes a little bland once the initial surprise of him being a completely different guy who was taken from the hospital wears off. He just seems like your average sort of run of the mill loser criminal. The rest of the supporting cast isn't really any better. Like the girl, the 16-year-old girl, Crystal, the the girlfriend of of Connie, Corey, who tries to use her mom's credit card to pay the bail bondsman, but then it's declined because her mom canceled the card. A lot of them just kind of run together and just seem like your typical run of the mill loser characters. They're losers in life, they make bad decisions, they are in the position that they're in because of all these bad decisions, and it just kind of they run together. They're not that compelling or interesting to me. And I think it could have used some genuine moments of actual comedy to kind of break up the monotony a little bit more. I've heard people say it's funny. I didn't laugh once watching this film. I don't know where the comedy is supposed to be. I love dark comedies. I like black comedies. Those are honestly some of my favorite subgenres, or one of my favorite subgenres of comedy. And I just didn't see that here. It seemed like there were some attempts during the stuff involving Ray when he's talking about what happened and how he wound up in the hospital and how he busted his face. But other than that, like, there wasn't much. Like, there might be a couple moments where I might have smirked a little bit, but I never laughed. So I think that's definitely something that was a letdown when it comes to this script. Like, I didn't think it was that funny at all, despite there being potential to have some humorous moments. And yeah, like I said, it just really didn't maintain tension or suspense because of the things that I detailed. I didn't feel that there was enough interesting twists in the story to really throw me for a loop. Like I said, I felt it fizzled out by the end. The stuff early on where it was trying to break boundaries and take risks, like having Connie and Nick dressed in blackface. That's what that is. They're wearing masks of African Americans. Like that. That's what it is. It's essentially a take on blackface. So, and that does create a lot of a lot of questions and thoughts when you're watching that scene. It's definitely something that provides a fair amount of subtext, and there's a lot of that throughout about Connie and his connection with African Americans, and I definitely feel that's a very intentional. So there are moments of subtext, but there's not enough of it to really consistently compel me either in that area. And yeah, like I said, I Connie, it's a train wreck of a character, but he doesn't have enough traits about him that make him somebody that you feel could have hope, or somebody who could potentially do the right thing. He's just a guy from the very beginning that you know is just going to continue to make mistakes, or he's just continue to be an awful person. And I don't care what happens to those kind of people. So it just leads to just a lot of meandering and just kind of slow pacing, where the only thing that really breaks things up is when you have like a flashback or some kind of twist in the story. But that's just me. I'm in the minority when it comes to this screenplay. A lot of people think it's brilliant, it's great, and it's just full of nerve rattling tension. And I disagree respectfully. I think the other aspects of the film, though, are great. Like the other technical aspects of it, the cinematography by Sean Price Williams, the editing, especially by Ronald Bronstein and Benny Sadfie. Whatever moments of legitimate tension that the film had, I really felt were due to the editing, not necessarily due to what was happening in the screenplay. The music by Onio Thrick's Point Never, I thought was really creative and inventive and cool. I love synthwave, so it was just really a lot of fun to hear a synthwave score that was utilized for the film. And the cast, there's a really good cast, spearheaded by Robert Pattinson, who was tremendous as Connie. Uh, it was definitely a performance that really had you glued to the screen, not because of the strengths of the character himself of Connie, but because of how Pattinson played the role. I think if there was a different performer or a different actor who played this character, this film wouldn't be nearly as good, because Pattinson brings so much to the role that just makes it so much more unique and compelling. And he just brought this character to life in a way that was really engaging because of the fact that it's Pattinson. It's a man who, for many, many years, was typecast as a guy from Twilight, a guy who's capped as an actor. Like, he doesn't have this extra level that he can reach to play this kind of role. And here he taps into that. He's given an opportunity to play this kind of role, and he kills it. And so, despite the weaknesses of the character in terms of the writing, Pattinson just makes the character work because of his inherent ability as an actor. And the rest of the cast, like I said, is fine. Like Benny Sadfie is Nick. I don't think he's delivering a really spectacular performance. It's not awesome, but it's not awful either. It's just there. Buddy Duress, I thought, was dynamic, and I really enjoyed his performance as Ray. Uh, Taliah Lennice Webster, I thought she was terrific as Crystal. It was a difficult role because of the things that character was asked to do, but I thought the young actress did a really amazing job. Jennifer Jason Leigh, it was fun to see her again. Her character is a total deadbeat, but she played that role really well. Really showed the desperation. Really showed how easily she was willing to be manipulated by Connie just to have him in her life again, even though he's just using her. And that it seems like that's all that relationship is he uses her for things that he needs or he wants, but doesn't really follow through on the promises he makes, doesn't really follow through when it comes to genuinely having any real compassion for her. Um, then you have some other people, like a Necro who plays Khalifa, Ray's friend in the film. You got this Barkhad Abdi who plays Dash, the park security guard. But the main attraction is Robert Pattinson as Connie, and Robert does the best he possibly can to carry the film, and for the most part, he succeeds. Like he carries it, but I don't think he carries it to astounding heights. But he still carries the film across the finish line because of how strong his performance is. If there's one reason to watch this film, even if you're not even like the most interested in the idea of it, is to see Robert Pattinson's performance. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about Good Time except that's my thoughts on it. I know my opinion on this film is the complete opposite to what most people think about this movie, but I had to be honest. That's why I'm here. If you disagree, that's totally fine. I have no problem with that. Like I said earlier, what some people um, think is a strength of this film, they will still feel that way, despite me feeling that it's a weakness. Some people feel it has great tension. I don't. And I think that's something that this film hinges upon. If you can relate to or somewhat connect with Connie's character on a deeper level, and you care about him and you care about the whole plot involving him trying to get his brother out, then this is going to be a very rewarding film for you. It's going to have a lot of moments of suspense and tension and anxiety and so on. If that doesn't click for you like it didn't for me, then it's just going to be a film where it's more of a piece where you appreciate certain aspects of it and you watch it for a performer delivering some of their best work. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Good Time. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.